Trucker Dump, episode 179. In today's mega episode, we talk about the looming diesel shortage, how autonomous vehicles are still moving forward, what crash data shows before and after the ELD mandate, how the FMCSA has been keeping really busy, and Jeremy from our sponsor Porter Freight Funding explains double brokering to us. We've also got free meals for truckers, how union contract negotiations work, a unique approach to electric vehicle charging, and a massive truck recall for what seems like the least dangerous component on a truck ever. All that and more on today's show. So kick your feet up, unless you're driving of course, and let's get this party started. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Porter Freight Funding. You can learn more at porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump or give them a call at 205-576-8257. Crank up the tunage.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey, Trucker Dumpers, what up? Well, I'm back. So, is it just like guest host Stephen Gorman said last week that you didn't even notice I was gone? Who knows? Big shout out to Stephen for stepping up last week and filling in on the show. Really appreciate that. And you know, I had some fun with Stephen this week because he was over there in the Trucker Dump Slack group talking about guest hosting, and he said, next time we'll aim for an even bigger show. And I was like, next time? Dude, boy, you've got some confidence going on there. I better watch my back. I think Steven's trying to take over my show. Not cool, man. Not cool. But seriously, you know, I remember back when I first started getting into podcasts and I was always listening to my favorite hosts and I would think, oh God, I could do this show. I could do this show with them. It'd be great to be a co-host on this show full time. But of course, you're never going to get that chance. Well, when Steven reached out to me and offered, I thought, because I know Steven's that way. Me and him have talked about this before. So I thought I'd just give him a chance. So what do you think? Would you ever like a chance at this? If you think you could, send me a little sample. Just open up your phone, get in that voice memo app, send me a little recording. Tell me why you think you should be the one that hosts the next Trucker Dump podcast when I'm off for a week training another driver. I'll give you about a week in advance, hopefully, if my company gives me a week in advance, and you can put together a little show. Steven's first show was about 7 minutes long, and then he extended it out to about 20 minutes. He was going for 30, and I think we ended up around 20 minutes. So you can just have a nice little short show. It'll be something just to fill the gap, and it'll be something that, you know, maybe you will take an interest in the future. Because honestly, like I said, I know how hard it is to start a podcast, and it just might be fun to try your hand at it. So I'll have details to all of this. Again, I'll remind you at the end of the show. But hey, just keep it in mind. Maybe you could be the next guest host of the Trucker Dump podcast. So anyway, I am pretty pumped to be back. Training went well last week. Well, I think it did. I always think it goes okay, but you know, training, well, it's not like training a new driver. It's just like mentoring a experienced driver, just explaining how the ropes work around there and everything. And, you know, I usually enjoy the people that I'm with, as I did with this guy named Rick. But you know, by the end of it, I think he's probably done with me and I'm just done with him. And we want to get back to our solo lives. So I was glad to finish it up, but you know, he's settling in nicely. And the good thing is he didn't quit on the following Monday like my last guy did. So there's that. So, hey, I guess I ought to tell you who I am for those of you new to the show. My name is Todd McCann. I've been driving a truck for 25 years. 22 of those was over the road, and then the last 3.5 or so have been in the LTL industry. About 9 of those years was teaming with my wife and ex-co-driver, lovingly referred to as the Evil Overlord. And by the way, Stephen, wise choice not to cross the Evil Overlord. Don't go down that road, man. Don't. So also last week, Stephen talked about my books. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, and the other is called Trucking Life. And thanks for the awesome endorsement there, Stephen. If you're interested in those books, you can get both of them as an ebook combo pack on abouttruckdriving.com. It's only $14.98 for both of those. Or if you want them individually, just head on over to Amazon or iBooks or Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your ebooks. Oh, and also, Trucking Life comes with a 9.25-hour audiobook included with that. So just to finish this up here, Stephen did mention last week that he does a TikTok channel, and I put a link in the show notes this week in there for that. I think I put it in there last week also. Not sure about that, but he also talked about an episode that he co-hosted with me on, and that was a Trucker Dump 111, Improving Our Reputation as Truckers. And I will put a link to that article and podcast in the show notes also. Show notes, what are those? Those are those things that you can get by looking around in your podcast app if you have a good one, or you can get them by subscribing to the newsletter on abouttruckdriving.com, and you'll get those in your inbox every week. Or you can just go to abouttruckdriving.com and search for TD179, which is this episode right here. Basically, those show notes are just a long list of links for all the articles that I talk about here in the show. So enough with all that promoting stuff. Hey, I don't know about you, but I love getting packages in the mail. Now, the evil overlord, it's no big deal to her. She is the Amazon queen. She's always getting crap sent in the mail. She'd rather do that than go to a store any old day, which is just another reason to love her. She doesn't take me shopping with me, with her, because Lord knows, dudes, we hate that, don't we? Yeah, we do. But anyway, I got a package in the mail, so I was pretty pumped about it. Even more so because it was cool tech stuff from Garmin. Yeah, they sent me a couple of things to review. Now, if you remember in the past, Garmin sent me one of their diesel OTR 1000 units. It's the big 10, the big 10-inch GPS unit. And I put out a big review on that, about 53 minutes of video. I'll put a link to that in show notes, by the way. But this time, like I said, they sent me two things. The first is the diesel OTR 810. That's their new 8-inch model. That is considered what they call trucking simplified. It's got some extra added features that look pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to diving into that. But this other device I'm already testing a little bit is their diesel headset 200. Now, they have a 100 also. The 100 is your typical headset. The 200 is the convertible style. And that's the one where, you can take one ear cup off or you can put both ear cups on. Now, this is a unique product. I've never seen another headset like this. I may just not have vast knowledge about all those headsets out there, but this one has some unique features on it. So I'm looking forward to reviewing that one, and you'll hear about that in the future on the show. Pretty cool. Love playing with all that techie stuff because, well, I'm a nerd. So I guess we should just get on with this. At this point, I have not edited the entire podcast yet, but it looks like it's going to be a really long episode. So let's say we just get on with it. And of course, how else would we start off a Trucker Dump podcast? Yeah. All right. Who wants to start the news segment with a giant recall? Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Not. Okay, this one is from PACCAR. They are recalling over 76,000 trucks because of a digital dash freezing. Now, they say this can cause a crash, which is very interesting. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know. Maybe your digital dash doesn't warn, it freezes, and then it doesn't warn you that you're getting too close to the vehicle behind you or something like that. If you have the adaptive cruise, who knows? I would just argue that if you have an accident because your digital dash is freezing, you perhaps ought to rethink your career. Pay attention to the road, not your digital dash. Anyway, this is only affecting about 1% of PACCAR trucks. And of course, PACCAR is Peterbilt and Kenworth. Affected models are 2022 and 2023 years. Kenworth T680, T880, and W990s. Peterbilt 365, 367, 389, 567, and 579. Apparently, some truck owners were reporting this problem happening, and there have been no crashes or anything due to this, but they just want to get this fixed. The company who does that software issued a fix on September 15th, so they are urging owners to get back to a dealer. They say they're going to be updating this software within the next 60 days. So for all the details on this one, go to freightwaves.com. You'll find the recall number there and more details. Okay, to all you veterans, Tin Hut, got some news for you here. As you undoubtedly know, November 11th is Veterans Day, and Pilot Flying J is wanting to celebrate that. So, from November 11th through the 13th, service members and their families are eligible for a free meal at more than 750 participating Pilot Flying J and 19 Fuel Network locations across the U.S. This is a $12 meal credit, and the catch is you need to download the My Rewards Plus app and be verified through the ID.me section on that app. Quite frankly, if you're a truck driver, you should probably have that app already on your phone. Now, they say this year, if you don't use the full $12, it will be a rolling balance. So, if your meal doesn't cost $12, the next time you go back into a Pilot Flying J or 19 fuel station, you will get, the remaining of that balance will still be there to use on your next purchase. So that's cool. And another thing Pilot Flying J is doing to help on Veterans Day is a campaign called the Call of Duty Endowment. Now, what this does is it helps veterans transition to careers after their military service. They've helped more than 100,000 veterans and their family members already, so it's a good cause. And what they're doing is from October 31st through November 13th, if you go to a Pilot Flying J or 19 Fuel Network, you're going to have the option to round up your purchases to the nearest dollar amount. And Pilot will donate 100% of that to the Call of Duty Endowment, and they'll match all those donations up to $100,000. So, hey, this is an easy way to support our troops. Once their military career is over and they're trying to get back into civilian life, let's help them out a little bit. This is only going to cost us a few pennies on the dollar, so let's jump in on this. What say? Again, that runs October 31st through November 13th. So get into your Pilot and donate here. And veterans, make sure you cash in on that $12 meal deal. To download the My Rewards Plus app, just check the App Store on your iPhone or your Android phone, whatever you got. It's free and it's very, very useful. You can check this one out on cdllife.com. Okay, how about a couple of follow-up items here? You remember a few episodes ago we talked about Pennsylvania putting in a new law that, talked about getting snow and ice off of trucks, well, all cars and trucks. And we talked about the difficulty in that and the problems, of a trucker trying to get up on the top of their truck to remove snow and ice and how dangerous that was. And, they keep coming up with these rules, but they don't offer any solutions to fix the problem. Well, thankfully, Landline.media has some decent news for us. Pennsylvania bill would set up grant program for vehicle snow and ice scrapers. So how do you like that? They make a rule and then they suddenly try to give you an option to actually fix the problem. That's not like our government at all, especially Pennsylvania. But anyway, so basically these grants are going to be available to individual businesses who want to install like these ice scrapers or snow removal equipment at their businesses, but also other public places like service areas, way stations, inspection facilities, ports, maybe a company terminal, or even rail yards. So, hey, while I'm not all about government spending, typically, at least for once, this Pennsylvania has decided to offer a solution to a problem that they presented. And yes, I know it's not their problem that snow falls out of the sky and collects on your vehicle. But, I, for one, don't want to get one of these maximum fines of $1,500 if, I have snow and ice come flying off my vehicle. So anyway, that about sums that one up. Just check this one out over here on landline.media for all the details. And the other bit of follow-up is concerning the Department of Labor's new worker classification stuff. We've gone into that ad nauseum here on the podcast. That's basically just saying that, the Department of Labor has come out with a new way to figure out who is an independent contractor and who is not. And it's not looking good for the trucking industry. So there's a commenting period put in place right now that is going on through November 28th. But the National Retail Federation requested that commenting period be extended by another 45 days. Well, the Department of Labor did not give them 45 extra days, but they did extend it by 15 days. So now the new deadline is December 13th. So if you are an independent contractor or just somebody who cares about this stuff, make sure you go over here to landline.media. There's a link in this article that will take you over there so you can put your comments in concerning this new Department of Labor 6-factor test to decide if you're an independent contractor or not. Again, this could change the way we look at the trucking industry today. This issue already has 2,000 comments from drivers, and what say we get over there and just blast them big time on this stuff. Again, all the details you can find over here on landline.media. Okay, this next article I found on freightwaves.com has absolutely nothing to do with trucking whatsoever, but it does have to do with transportation and the railroad industry. And this is talking about the contract negotiations that is going on over at the railroads. As we've talked about in the past here, the railroad union has basically denied, the contract. They've not ratified it. They went back to the table and now they have another tentative agreement. And this article is basically just an interview with, explaining the negotiating process. So if you've ever wondered how a union negotiation works, this is an excellent article, fairly short, but it kind of gives you the idea of how things work and, what union people are typically fighting for, especially in this, particular scenario, what the rail workers are fighting for. So just a neat little article on, explaining how these contract negotiations go. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, head on over to freightwaves.com, click the link in the show notes, or if you're not, just skip right over it, which you've probably already done at this point. Oh, and as a quick update, they do say that they are going to be voting on this sometime this week. So probably by the end of, by Friday, it sounds like. And if they can't reach an agreement by then, it looks like they're set to go back to negotiations up through December 8th. And if nothing is done by then, well, they can extend it out even further. But right now, if nothing happens, that could be the strike date would be December 9th. Now, they are saying this looks like a lot better offer this time around. So we will just see. This guy in the article says it looks like it may pass. But, again, he's not sure. He is just one of the negotiators. As you may or may not know, it is the union members who vote on this. And if the union members do not like it, then the bosses will go back to work and try to renegotiate the whole thing again. So enough about that. Just thought I'd give you a quick update on where that whole thing stands. Because like I said, this will affect the trucking industry if the railroad industry goes into strike. So enough about that. Let's move on. I've seen a lot of talk recently about the supply of diesel fuel being really, really, really low. And especially they expect there to be shortages in the east part of the country. So if you're curious about this, head over to overdriveonline.com. They have an article called Only 25 Days of Diesel Left, What to Make of Low Inventories. So in short, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, there's just about 25 days of distillants. Am I saying that right? Distillates? I don't know, which includes diesel. That's all we have left in stock. That is a low that we've had since 2008. Now, normally they carry between 35 and 40 days of supply, but we are down to 25. Now, these experts here in the article say that this is primarily due to refinery shortages, not being able to kick out enough energy. And so Biden is trying to release this to lower prices at the pump. And honestly, it's not working. And they expect if he keeps this up, it is going to backfire on us. And largely, I found out that is because all of this that is being released from our emergency stores is not being used for the United States, believe it or not. I found an article over here on Bloomberg.com. The U.S. is exporting record oil and fuel even as East Coast faces shortages. So this is the problem I have with this, is that we're getting at an all-time low in our country when the current administration has tried to stifle. They say they want more oil production, but they don't make it very easy on the oil companies to do so. But, the elections are coming up and they really need to look good. So they want to lower prices on fuel, and it honestly is not working for diesel. But, for us to be taking the stuff that we have for our emergencies and to sending it overseas, why? I realize Europe is having their issues too with the whole Ukraine war and all that stuff. They're being shorted. I get that, but, hate to sound selfish, but shouldn't we be taking care of our own country first? That's a long-time problem here in the United States, so we don't do that. We feed the hungry in Africa, but we won't feed the hungry right here in our own country. Interesting. But I digress. Let's get back to the article here on overdriveonline.com, where these experts say this is a problem, but it's not quite as severe as everyone is making it out. They say just to remember that the 25 days does not mean we will be out of fuel in 25 days. And that is because this is like a rolling inventory where, you've got 25 days right now, but if you produce more fuel today than you use, then you actually gain over time, and you'll get those stores back up to a 25 or 35 to 40 day supply again. And we'll get back going on that. Now, of course, that's no guarantee, especially if we keep shipping stuff out to other countries to try to get votes at this next election. But anyway, I'm going to get off this subject before I get pissed. All right. Check this article out on overdriveonline.com. Seriously, this is a really good read. And if you're paranoid and freaked out about the oil supply and not having enough diesel, then make sure you go check out this article. Read the entire thing and it will calm your nerves a bit. Okay? Relax and take a chill pill, man. All right, next up, we got a few stories about the FMCSA, our buddies. This one is called FMCSA Plans Proposal on Automated Driving Systems for 2023. So it looks like they had an advance notice of proposed rulemaking back in 2019, and now they are having the actual proposed rulemaking as projected for January. They say the 18th of January. That's pretty specific, so they must know something there. So basically, they're just trying to make a standard way to regulate autonomous driving vehicles in commercial motor vehicles. So this is pretty standard stuff. They're just wanting to make sure everybody's on the same board and everybody has the same safety standards and all that stuff. Not a whole lot to go over here, just saying that, this rulemaking will come down in January, coming up here in just a few months. And of course, there should be a commenting period on that. And when that pops its ugly head, I will let you know that it's going on. For more details on this one, check it out on landline.media. We've talked recently about how the FMCSA now finally has an administrator, Robin Hutchison, and she was recently on Landline Now. That is a podcast put out by OOIDA, and they ask her lots of tough questions about, these, all these new proposals going on with the speed limiters and the ELDs in the older trucks and all of this stuff and the automatic emergency braking systems that's being proposed. And I got to say, she's kind of a typical politician in that regard, where a lot of those questions did not get answered. Of course, they kind of fiddle fart around the answer and don't really give you the truth. But one thing I did get from that interview was that the FMCSA wants to make clear to all of the truck drivers that when they put out these proposed rules and they ask for public commenting, that is a listening and learning period for them. That is what they're doing. They're not saying, as many truck drivers think, as soon as they put those things out, they think, okay, they're doing this. They're going to shove it through. They're just going to ram it down our throats. Eventually, they're going to do it whether we like it or not. Well, they might, but that's not their ultimate goal from this. It's to learn from us. Why ask for comments if you're not going to learn from us? So, like on the one with the speed limiters has gotten over 15,000 comments. So they're processing all of those and reading through all of them, which probably a lot of them say the same thing. But, when you do this in big numbers like this and they get big numbers, they realize how serious of an issue this is for truck drivers and how much it pisses them off, because the vast majority of them are negative. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about this article over here on landline.media, or even the Landline Now interview with Miss Hutchinson. Just say that, when they offer these public commenting sessions, make sure you get over there and follow up on this. It doesn't take that long to do. It's pretty darn easy. I usually do this. Sometimes I forget, but usually I do this. And, because we forget, I would like to suggest to you to just stop what you're doing and go over there and whichever one of these things you're passionate about, or all of them. The more they hear from us truck drivers, well, we can't complain about it later on if we didn't say anything and didn't voice our opinion. Okay? And for the record, Landline Now is a really good podcast, so you should check it out. There's a link to their show on their website in this article, or you can just look for Landline Now in your favorite podcast app. So for this article, head to landline.media or just click that link right there in the show notes. Hey, I shouldn't have to tell you this, but you are aware that the midterm elections are on November 8th, correct? That's like next week. Well, I went and voted this past Monday when I was home and got in on the early voting. Loved that. Walked in. I was like, the only other person there just happened to be a coworker of mine. I was standing there talking to the lady, and I heard this voice, and I was like, I recognize that voice. And look at there. There was Jackie. Jack's just standing there doing his voting too. So anyway, the reason I'm even mentioning this at all is because I found something interesting. I'm from Missouri, but I was not expecting this to be on my ballot, but they brought up marijuana and whether it should be legal for non-medical purposes in the state. How it relates to the podcast here is the FMCSA says marijuana policy changes are going to take a while. So if you were into the Mary Jane and you're hoping that there's going to be some changes soon, it's going to allow you to smoke some reefer on the weekend, well, that is not likely to happen anytime soon. There's just too many things going along with it. And quite honestly, it's not even an issue in every state quite yet. According to this article, 37 states and the District of Columbia have laws that permit medical use of marijuana and marijuana products. And another 19, as well as Washington, D.C., has marijuana is okay for non-medical use. And that was the issue on the Missouri ballot. So anyway, not really much more to say on that except for, just the fact that the FMCSA says it's going to take at least a few years, if not more. They said they have barely been talking about it at all. It's just kind of informal talking about it here and there when somebody brings up the topic of marijuana and trucking. So that's really about all there is to say on that. If you were hoping to be able to smoke some doobage and drive a truck, well, that still ain't happening for quite a few years. So anyway, for all the details on this one, head to landline.media. And again, make sure you get out there and vote, because if you are an American citizen, and I mean that, if you're an American citizen, not an illegal immigrant, the Constitution says all legal citizens have the right to vote in this country, not illegal citizens. Okay? Well, I guess you're not a citizen if you're illegal. Illegal residents. Let's put it that way. So anyway, get out there and vote. November 8th is the day. And if you're not going to be home before that, be sure to check out absentee balloting in your state. Do your part, if for nothing else, so you have a right to complain about it when things don't go your way. All right, onward. And to hopefully sum up our little FMCSA segment here, got another one on landline.media. FMCSA eyes rule to identify and remove unfit motor carriers. So this is just a notice of proposed rulemaking aimed at learning more effective ways to get these carriers off the road. Basically, they're wanting input from us, drivers, and companies on how they might use the data that they already have and other resources to remove unfit motor carriers, get them off the roadway. They're also looking for input on their current 3-tier safety fitness rating structure, which is satisfactory, conditional, and unsatisfactory. They're wanting to see if that might be altered in some way to help get bad carriers off the road. And they're also wanting to include a review of the list of federal motor carrier safety regulations that the FMCSA uses in its safety fitness rating methodology. So it just looks like they're just wanting to look at their whole process to see if it is working well enough to get these bad carriers off the road. So that's really all there is to say about that one. Boy, the FMCSA has certainly been busy lately. I've got to say that about this administration for sure. They are moving and shaking constantly. I'm not sure I like all the moving and shaking, but it is definitely moving and shaking much more than it was in the previous administration. Of course, I think in general, the trucking industry just wishes things would stay the same or just not get worse. And that's what I'm afraid of right now is things are just looking worse with all of these changes. We will see. Anyway, again, you can find that one on landline.media. You know, I've been seeing lots of articles recently about this double brokering scandal, and I have not talked about it yet, and it's a good thing because why would I talk about it myself when we have experts to do it for you? And especially since those experts come from Porter Freight Funding, our sponsor. Now, this little clip you're going to hear is put together by Jeremy Kilpatrick. I heard this for the first time and thought, wow, that's really awesome. Great clip. And then I learned I kind of need to hate Jeremy a little bit. And that's because he did this all in one freaking take. And you all know how bad I am at that. I mean, my blooper reel is all you need to hear. But regardless, no, I don't really hate Jeremy. I just envy him a lot. So with that, why don't you take it away, Jeremy?
This is Jeremy with Porter Freight Funding. And today I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk about double brokering, ways we can spot it, and how we can help protect our businesses from becoming victim to the double brokering schemes that are on the rise. I'd like to start out by briefly touching on what double brokering is and why we each need to be vigilant in vetting out the brokers that we are working with. So double brokering mostly is seen when a shipper hands off their freight, expecting the broker to pass that freight on to a valid carrier. What happens instead is the broker hands the shipment to another broker, and then that broker finds a carrier, and the paperwork becomes muddled, and it is actually hard to trace back who delivered and who's responsible for payment, and it really increases the risk of non-payment to the carrier. Another form of double brokering is when a carrier gives a load to another carrier and then the paperwork trail gets a little murky. And so what we want to do is we want to try to help prevent this from happening in the first place, but also give you tips for what to look out for to help protect your business. So how are some ways that we can spot double brokering? Well, first of all, if a broker asks you as a carrier to check in at the shipper under another carrier's name, you might want to ask some follow-up questions to determine if this is a valid load or what would be the reason that you would be checking in under another carrier's name. Also, you want to see if the BOL lists another carrier's name on it or a completely different broker's name altogether. Verify that the broker's information, their address, their phone numbers, their email, all of these things on the rate confirmation, they match the information for the broker's company found on Safer, FMCSA, or even by doing a simple Google search. You want to make sure that it's the real broker instead of someone posing as them. Make sure that your bill of lading matches the details on your rate confirmation. Another thing to look for is if you see an unusually high rate for, let's say, a basic run on it, it might be too good to be true. So ask some follow-up questions and do your research on the broker. So one of the questions that we get here is whether or not double brokering is illegal in the U.S. And the simple answer is that per FMCSA legislation, the practice is illegal. So we're going to go with that answer, that yes, double brokering is illegal and you should be watching out for it. Well, then the next question that always comes up is, well, what are the repercussions that come from double brokering? And I'll tell you this, the biggest repercussion that we see is that you as the carrier are not getting paid for the work that you've done. Okay. Secondly, the load can be uninsured and any damages that happen would not be covered. And then, of course, finally, there's legal repercussions, and that costs all parties money and time. So what can you as the carrier do if you unknowingly haul a double brokered load? Reach out to the shipper or the receiver as soon as you find out. Usually the party that's paying the freight bill is unaware of the issue. If the person paying the bill has not paid the fraudulent party, they can, and most of the time they will, pay the carrier directly with proper documentation. This will also alert the shipper that they're working with a fraudulent company and that the shipments given to them will stop. We want to see your business succeed, and we want to make sure that you're protected. You can find this post and other blog posts similar to this by going to our website at porterfreightfunding.com and clicking on resources. I hope that this helps give you some information to protect yourself. And of course, if you have any questions regarding this or any other issues, please reach out to us here at Porter Freight. We'd be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Can you believe that crap? Seriously, folks, one take. I swear to God, I did not edit that at all. One long stream of audio. Golly, I wish I could do that. Anyway, as you can tell, Porter Freight Funding are the experts, right? Like Jeremy said, you can go to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, or you can give them a call at 205-576-8257. And you know, really, if you get caught up in one of these double brokering scams, it sounds like a freaking nightmare. So why don't you just let the experts at Porter Freight Funding take care of this for you? That's what they specialize in. You don't get paid for something? Let Porter Freight Funding help you. They even offer other services like brokering, dispatching, fuel cards, insurance, and of course, compliance. So again, what are you waiting for? Head on over to porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump and sign up for an account. Or if you got questions for them, give them a call at 205-576-8257. So thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump, and thanks to Jeremy for filling us in on double brokering. Appreciate it, man. Great job. I only hate you a little. Hey, this next one is a really, really long, but really, really good article on overdriveonline.com. It's called ELDs and Highway Safety. Crashes, Injuries, and Fatalities Rise Post-Mandate. Now, we've talked about this in the past. I'm not going to go into great detail on it here, but basically the gist of the story here is Overdrive and a sister business that is called Rig Dig looked at crash and fatality in injury numbers in the 4 years prior to the ELD mandate, which was 2004 to 2017, and the 4 years following the implementation of ELDs from 2018 to 2021. And they found that in every category, crashes went up after ELDs were mandated. Isn't that interesting? There's a nice little infographic here on the article that shows more crashes, more injuries, more fatalities, and it goes into lots of graphs on, different types of accidents and all that stuff. And they have comments from FMCSA Administrator Robin Hutchison, who was on an episode of Landline Now recently and was talking about some of this stuff. And she was just saying that we understand the correlation between ELDs and the crashes going up, but we don't think that is the only cause. And she's probably right about that. Often, when you look at cause and correlation and all that stuff, it's not necessarily just one thing. It's a series of things, but it is kind of curious, isn't it? They implement these ELDs saying it's going to make everything safer and keep drivers from driving too long and things like that. And yet here we go with the, more crashes after the ELDs were mandated. And you combine this with the fact that recently they did all the COVID exemptions and let certain drivers not have hours of service during the COVID era. And they found even less crashes then when drivers were not obeying the hours of service at all. So very, very interesting stuff going here. Now, again, as I've said before, do I think this is ever going to change the fact that they're going to get rid of ELDs? Not a chance in hell. Let's just go ahead and say that. They are not going backwards on this. We're going to have ELDs probably for the rest of our lives, or at least until I die, for sure. So anyway, like I said, long article, but very good, very detailed, lots of good information in here. Go check it out on overdriveonline.com. All right, let me tell you about a new feature that Lytx is offering on their dash cams. Found this one on Transport Topics, that's ttnews.com. Lytx unveils safety solution for parked commercial vehicles. Now, my first thought on this was parked commercial vehicles. Okay, so it maybe triggers that camera when somebody hits your vehicle or whatever. Well, honestly, I think it already did that. These cameras already do that. So what is this? Well, this is a new feature that detects whether you are sitting on the side of a highway, like a parked highway or a ramp. And when it recognizes that you're parked there, it will send a message to the fleet owner or, the dispatcher or whatever, if you've been parked there for at least 10 minutes. So they can call you up and ask you to move. That way you're not one of these truck drivers parked on the side of the road. Now, we all know as truckers that sometimes you just have to park on an exit ramp. There's no other option. You're out of hours and you're going to have to spend the night there. It really sucks. Nobody likes to do it, but there it is. So I'm guessing, when your fleet manager calls you up and you say, hey, look at my hours. I'm completely out of hours. They'll probably just give you a little lecture about starting, to find parking a little bit earlier next time so you don't end up in this situation. But we all do know right now there is a horrible problem in the United States, at least, with trucks parked on the shoulder of the road. And I don't even know why. A lot of times they're parked on the shoulder of the actual highway just before they get to an on-ramp or just after they get to an on-ramp. Well, it's never ideal to pull off of a roadway anywhere for that purpose, just to take a break or to take a leak or whatever. But if you're going to do it, at least do it on an exit ramp. Why not? It's right there. And it gives you a runway to get back on at full speed instead of just cutting out in front of somebody. I swear. I know I've complained about drivers sitting on the shoulder so much on this podcast, and it doesn't seem to be helping any. You still get, you still look way up in the distance and you see that truck sitting over there and I always scoot over to the left if I can. If there's any way possible, I scoot over to the left because it's amazing how many times that driver will just pull right out in front of you. Like, it's your obligation to slow down to let them in. I don't know if these are, sorry to say this, but I don't know if these are foreigners who are not used to driving in this country because, if you've ever looked at a video of like Indonesia, Bangladesh, Philippines, places like that, it's a free for all over there. For the traffic, there are no rules. Even if they have rules, nobody follows them. It's just you go and everybody just better stay out of your way. And it's your responsibility to dodge everybody coming at you. It's a whole different world over there. But hey, if you're one of these drivers parking on the shoulder of the road and you think it's okay just to pull back out on the road whenever you want and slow everybody else down, you're wrong. This is America. Don't do that. Okay. And if you're an American citizen and been living here all your life and you know that, then screw you. Get out of the industry. I'm tired of you people. Come on. Let's be professional here. Okay. Man. Well, that went off on a little tangent I wasn't expecting. But anyway, this is a cool little feature from Lytx. Once again, they're spying on us, of course, but on what we're doing. But hey, if you're parked on the shoulder of a highway, then hey, maybe you deserve to get a call from your fleet manager. This is a really short article you can find over here on ttnews.com. That's Transport Topics. Rant over. Okay, take a journey with me. We're going to step into the future with Transport Topics. Michigan to test roads with underground coils for electric vehicle charging. So Michigan DOT has partnered with a company called Electrion. They're out of Israel, and they specialize in wireless electric vehicle charging. So what they're planning on doing is putting this electric charging in the roadway. So it's insulated in rubber and buried about 3 inches beneath the pavement. So they're going to do this on a section of road in Detroit. And they say this is already being installed in other areas like, they mentioned in Sweden because they were talking about, they were interested in whether snow or ice would affect it or cold weather or anything like that. And apparently there's nothing bad about, installing these systems in cold weather climates. So that's good. So this is just a 5-year pilot program right now, and they're just trying to figure out how this is going to work, how well it's going to charge the vehicles, how much they should charge for the service, which of course they will charge for the service. And they say they've done extensive testing to make sure that this is safe for animals and humans. So, all this electricity coming up through the road is not going to harm us. So they say, we'll see. You hear all these weird stories about people who live near power lines and, who knows? We'll see. So anyway, they are saying this is the future and they want to just be on the forefront of all this. Michigan wants to be the first state to really implement this. And, of course, they say this is not going to work on every electric vehicle, that you will have to have one of these Electrion receivers on your vehicle, and it will only activate, like the electricity is active, but it's not working, so to speak, unless a vehicle with one of these receivers travels over the top of it, and then it will activate. Now, if you don't know anything about wireless charging, well, a lot of our phones have it right now. And, well, if you plug in a cord to your phone to charge it, it charges much, much, much faster, and the phone gets way less hot. If you set it on one of these Qi chargers and do it wirelessly, it takes a lot longer and the phone gets pretty scorching hot. So there's that to deal with too. And also the efficiency of the charging is way, way, way less. And that is, think of the phone, it's sitting right on top of the device, on top of the charger. But here you're going to have the distance between the road, 3 inches below the road, and the bottom of your vehicle at least. And this is for cars. That's not, a foot maybe, depending on the ground clearance of the vehicle. But what about a truck? I mean, now you're talking about, 2 feet. I don't know what the distance is under there, but it's a big gap to close. So I imagine this will work much, much better on cars, and maybe they'll just figure out that this is just a way to kind of top your system off. I would very seriously doubt if you could start out with a low battery at the beginning of a day, drive all day on this stuff, if they eventually get it, installed all over the country and actually come out with more battery power. I would think if anything, it would just maybe maintain your battery power or your battery capacity. So at the end of your work day, you wouldn't have to charge as much when you're at the truck stop or a charging station. It wouldn't take quite as long because you've kept the charge up. Anyway, this is very interesting technology. We will see how it works, and we'll let Michigan be the guinea pigs on this with their $1.9 million. Oh yeah, and they do say that this wireless electric vehicle charging can also be installed, not just only on public roadways, but also on tollways, loading docks. They can put it in parking lots, so maybe you could just be sitting there in the dock at a customer and you're getting charged while you're sitting there. I could see how this might be beneficial in the long run with all the electric vehicles they're planning on putting on the roads, but for now, this is going to be so limited that it's going to be virtually useless until the day I die. But, we got to get started somewhere, right? So if you want all the details on this, head on over to Transport Topics. That's ttnews.com. And they've even got a picture from Gotland, Sweden, of what this looks like under the road. Looks like kind of like a rubber grid. Very interesting. Anyway, check this one out if you're interested. Hey, a while back we were talking about how Oklahoma was setting up the framework to get autonomous vehicles working in the state. Well, that finally went into law. So apparently there is saying there are already companies such as Seva Logistics and Kodiak Robotics that are already planning to run freight between Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma City. That's going to be a big corridor for them. And they said that they are the only Oklahoma was the only state on the I-40 corridor that wasn't already allowing these autonomous vehicles. So Oklahoma is now one of 30 states that allow autonomous vehicles, to travel through their states and to be tested there. Now, if you look on any map where they talk about roadways, that are going to be allowing autonomous vehicles, they're almost always in the South, because with autonomous vehicles, we know they work much better when there isn't snow and ice on the road and a lot of rain and stuff like that. And naturally down South is a better option for that. So anyway, not a lot to report here, just letting you know that if you see a truck with lots of cameras and lots of whiz-bang things on it, that when no driver, well, don't be shocked if you see that in Oklahoma. Or apparently 29 other states. Who knew? Found this one on landline.media. Speaking of autonomous vehicles, let's stick with transport topics, ttnews.com, for this one about Embark. If you remember correctly, Embark is a company that specializes in autonomous vehicles, and they've got a bunch of those vehicles on the road. Well, they have just announced their core coast-to-coast network, which involves 9 cities, and that's going to be Oakland, Los Angeles, Phoenix, El Paso, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. And what these are basically service centers where they can pull in. We talked in a recent episode how these autonomous vehicles were going to have to be inspected periodically along the way to make sure everything's running right and, everything's working, and they're going to need to get fuel and all that stuff. And these will just be set up. It sounds like these will be set up to accommodate autonomous vehicles, so they won't have to mess with all the stuff at the truck stops. Now, I know Pilot Flying J is planning some of these themselves. They've already got a couple of them. I think the first one went in Atlanta, if memory serves. And so they will have their option too, but Embark will have this option as well. So this is just the start. They say this, they set this all up, and it probably won't get really up to scale until 2024. But now, at least when these Embark trucks are heading across the southern United States, they will have some place to stop and get service and get fuel and all that other stuff. So here we go. Hang on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Well, I guess not, since no one's in the vehicle. No ride to bump on. Anyway, check this one out. ttnews.com. Hey, you remember a few episodes ago, we talked about how Pilot Flying J was going through this, I think they call it the New Horizons thing, where they planned on upgrading a bunch of their facilities. Well, they are not the only ones. Travel Centers of America is on a tear too. Now, I don't remember talking about this, honestly, but apparently back in 2021, they said they were going to open more than 100 new locations, and part of that was also just site upgrades. Well, they've already upgraded about 50 of their travel centers, but now they are announcing 4 new ones that are open. The first one is going to be a TA in Cuba, Missouri, and this is the former Midwest Travel Center. Man, I hope they don't mess that place up. I really do. TA, please don't mess with it too much. They've got some excellent food in there. Just don't screw it up, please. Okay? We got so few of these mom and pop places left, and now, TA is taking over, and Pilot Flying J, and everybody's just taking over all of these little truck stops, and they're just being run out. Well, this is a regular stop for mine, on I-44. Stop there a lot, and up there in their deli area, not just the restaurant, but their deli area, they got some awesome breakfast burritos. Really good food up there. Anyway, just don't mess with that too much, TA, please. The other 3 are all going to be TA Expresses. One is in Fairplay, South Carolina. That is the former Carolinas Travel Center. And then they've got a couple of brand new ones in Statesboro, Georgia, and Riverton, Illinois. And they say they've got 4 more planned for 2022. 2 are going to be opened in California, and 1 is in Oklahoma, and the other is in Missouri. Now, I'm not sure about the one in Missouri. We do know there is one being built in Mount Vernon across from the current one. The current one is on exit 46, I believe. And on the opposite side of the highway, there will be a brand new TA that will be, I believe they said it's going to rival the big Walcott, the largest truck stop in America. They plan on this being a whopper big one. And apparently they're going to keep open the smaller one across the highway. So that's going to be interesting. Now, that shop is already up. I've seen it. It actually looks like it's in operation, but they have not started a lot on the other buildings. So I very seriously doubt that one's going to be released in 2022. So there must be some other one here in Missouri that they're planning on building. Wonder where that's going to be. I can't remember what they said for the giant one. 2023, 2024. I don't remember, but it's coming. They are building it. So with all of these changes, Travel Centers of America is also announcing that they're working with Cleveland Clinic to provide healthier meal options at Country Pride and Iron Skillet full-service restaurants starting in November. And they're also trying to make available more healthy grab-and-go options, for snacks and stuff like that. So anything we can do to help truckers be less fat is a good thing. Any more truck stops we can put on the road to provide more parking and services, that's great too. So thank you, Travel Centers of America. Keep it up. Just don't screw it up. Landline.media for this one. All right, Trucker Dump is anything but a medical podcast, but I'm going to talk about Medicare just a little bit here, just so I can point you to a good resource over here on overdriveonline.com. The article is called Getting Close to 65. Now's the time to understand the realities around Medicare for healthcare needs. So author Gary Buchs, Buchs, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Gary, he just talks about all the different types of Medicare. Man, I didn't have any idea because I'm not close to 65 yet, but there's Part A, there's Part B, there's Part D. What happened to C? I don't know. There's Medicare supplement insurance called Medigap. There's a Medicare Advantage plan. There's just way too much. I'll worry about that when I get closer to 65 if I'm not already dead yet. So if you are getting close to retirement age and you want to see what your healthcare options are, be sure to head over here to overdriveonline.com and check out this article. I read through it and it's pretty good, and it doesn't go into too much detail, doesn't kill you, but gives you the basic understanding of how things work. So again, head on over here, overdriveonline.com, if you're an old person. All right, I think I'll leave you with a little video. This is about 7 minutes long. I found this one over on cdllife.com. Simply called How to Strap a Load. Now, I know I can't be the only driver out here who's driven many, many years, 25 to be exact, and never done anything but drive van. So strapping a load, the concept I get, but the actual practicality of doing it, never done it. So this was just a neat little video. Like I said, 7 minutes long. Go over and check it out, and you'll learn how to strap a load. Now, he has another one that I saw. His name is Trent. Trent Rice. And his other video is called Chaining versus Strapping. When to chain, when to strap. But honestly, I didn't get much out of that one. Basically, the answer was just ask your shipper, which I thought there was something more to that. Certain types of equipment you want to strap and certain times you want to chain. But according to what he said, he just kind of asked the shipper what is required. So I'm not really sure why that needed a video all its own, but hey, this other one, How to Strap a Load, is pretty darn good. So thank you, Trent Rice, for putting that one out. Check it out if you've never seen how those straps work on there and the theory behind why they do what they do. Again, found that one on cdllife.com. So that is going to do it for this episode. And of course, that means there is no Trucker Grub segment and there's no listener feedback. Well, I had one listener feedback, but it was just one guy having trouble getting a hold of my ebooks. Hopefully he'll get that sorted out pretty darn quick. But for the rest of you, Trucker Grub segment, let me just tell you what that is real quick in case you're interested, in case you've never heard this before. Basically, I just like to hear from truckers who have a favorite place to eat out on the road, and they can easily access it in a truck. Just send me an audio comments only, about 3 minutes or less. Just tell me where it's at, what the name of it is, what kind of food it is, prices, favorite meal maybe, what you really like about the restaurant. Shoot it off to truckerdump@gmail.com. And of course, any feedback is welcome. You got suggestions, you got questions, you got concerns, you got suggestions. Oh, I already said suggestions, didn't I? Well, you can offer 2 suggestions if you'd like. Seriously though, getting kind of weirded out that I don't have any listener feedback anymore. Maybe that's because of the nature of the show is more news now and there's less opinion pieces and therefore it prompts less opinion pieces. I'm not sure exactly how that works. Anyway, I will let it go at that. I hope you had a great Halloween. I did not get home for it. I would have liked to, but work is calling and things are getting tight over here right now with the way my company is doing some things and I need to be making all the money I can. So I could not make it home, but the evil overlord got to do one of her most favorite things ever. And that is to go to the haunted houses with the nephews, 2 of the 3 nephews. And they brought a couple of friends along, which she loved even more because they were both girls and they were both noobs when it came to haunted houses. And honestly, there is very few things in life the evil overlord likes more than scaring the crap out of a kid. She just loves that. Doesn't matter. These were teenage girls and she just loved it. She put them through torture. She is the evil overlord. You realize that, right? Shouldn't surprise anyone. So I was a little bummed out that I didn't make it, but sometimes a man's just got to do what a man's got to do. I think Tim Allen might have put it best when he, in his Men Are Pigs stand-up routine, that was from a long time ago, where he talked about, how women have all kinds of choices in life. And he was saying, I can work part-time, I can be full-time, I can be full-time mom, part-time work, part-time charity, and he just went through all these options as Tim Allen does. And then at the end, he said, men have, basically 2 choices, work or penitentiary, basically. Well, that's kind of the way it works, isn't it? Well, thank you to all of you men and women out there who are working and keeping this industry going, even though the industry sucks right now. I appreciate you. And I know the rest of the country does, even if they don't drive like they appreciate you. So with that, I just hope you have a really, really, really safe week and let's get out of here. I know I sound really jacked up right now, but I am tired as crap and I'm ready to crawl into bed. So how about I just thank my sponsor one last time so we can all get out of here. Thanks to Porter Freight Funding for sponsoring this episode. That's porterfreightfunding.com/truckerdump, or you can give them a call at 205-576-8257. Let's skedaddle. So, who wants to guest host the show the next time I'm off training some poor sucker who has no other choice than to ride with me? I mean, who wouldn't want to have guest hosts for the Trucker Dump podcast proudly displayed on their resume? If you think you got the stuff, well, you're going to have to prove it to me by sending me an audio comment telling me why you should be the next guest host. All you have to do is open the voice memo app on your phone, tap record, and tell me why I should choose you next. Email that to truckerdump@gmail.com. And of course, I'll be playing all these on the podcast at some point. So now that I've offered you your chance at 15 minutes of worldwide fame, I'd like to say thank you for listening and following the show. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. All right, who wants to start the news episode with a All right. Who wants to start a All right, who wants to start all of the details on this just to see if there's any problems. They say they have checked, done extensive testing on this to make sure that all this electricity in the roads does not harm, animals or other, they say they've done extensive testing to make sure that this electricity,